The cash register drawer closed with a hollow click. Mae Johnson counted the bills again, $53.22. Barely enough to cover utilities, nowhere near the $50,000 she needed in 30 days to save her diner. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. She smoothed the warm bills with weathered hands that had kneaded biscuit dough in this kitchen for 35 years. Jerome's photograph smiled from above the register, both of them grinning on opening day. Back then, Highway 47 had been the main route through town, and Mae's kitchen had served travelers morning to night. Back then, hard work and good food had seemed like enough. The foreclosure notice sat in her desk drawer like a coiled snake. 30 days. Impossible. Lightning flashed outside. The weather service had been screaming warnings about severe thunderstorms all afternoon. Mae grabbed her purse and jacket. Time to close up before the worst hit. "We judge trees by their fruit, not their bark," Jerome had always said. She could almost hear his voice, though he'd been gone 5 years now. The rumble started low, mechanical, not natural. Motorcycles. Not just one or two, but many, their engines growing louder. Through the window, Mae watched 9 motorcycles roar into her parking lot, headlights cutting through darkness. The riders looked intimidating. Leather, chains, visible tattoos. The lead rider was enormous, over 6 feet, face scarred, arms covered in ink. Across the street, lights came on. Mae saw faces peering out, phones rising to ears. Mrs. Chen from the convenience store stood ready to slam her door. Mae knew what they were thinking. Trouble. Danger. Those people. The big one approached her door. Through the glass, Mae saw his scarred face more clearly. Hard lines, a scar from temple to jaw. He raised a hand to knock, his knuckles scarred too. "Grandma," Talia whispered urgently behind her, "don't answer it. Just wait until they leave." Mae looked at the man. He wasn't banging or demanding, just waiting, as rain began spotting his leather vest. Behind him, his companions looked anxiously at the darkening sky. One woman had her arm around a young man who couldn't be more than 20. Jerome's voice echoed, "We judge trees by their fruit, not their bark." Mae's hand moved to the deadbolt. "Grandma, please," Talia urged. But Mae had already opened the door. Wind rushed in, bringing rain and exhaust. The big man looked surprised. "Ma'am, I'm sorry to bother you, but the storm's getting bad and we need shelter. We can pay. We just need somewhere safe to wait it out." Up close, Mae saw past the intimidating exterior to something else. Respect in how he held himself, carefully maintaining distance. She'd spent 35 years reading people across a counter. "Well," Mae said, stepping back, "you'd better come in then. No sense drowning out there." Relief crossed his face. He gestured to his companions, and they filed inside. Talia pressed herself against the wall, but Mae noticed the bikers were careful not to crowd her. "I'm Marcus Cole," he said, extending his hand. "My friends call me Reaper. I know how that sounds." "I'm Mae Johnson," she interrupted, taking his hand. His grip was firm but gentle. "This is my granddaughter Talia, and this is Mae's kitchen." Lightning split the sky, and rain poured in sheets. The door closed, and Mae found herself surrounded by 9 strangers who looked like they'd ridden from her worst nightmares. Or maybe, a small voice whispered, from an answer to prayer. Outside, the storm raged. Inside, Mae Johnson made her choice. To see people, not prejudice. She just didn't know yet how much that choice would cost, or how much it would save. The power went out 20 minutes later, plunging Mae's kitchen into darkness. Mae moved by memory, finding emergency candles under the register. "Let me help you, ma'am," a voice said. The woman biker stood close. A lighter sparked. In its glow, Mae saw strong features, dark eyes holding kindness and wariness, ink crawling up her neck. "Thank you. I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name." "Rachel Santos. Everyone calls me Mercy. Comes from patching everyone up after they do something stupid." "You're a doctor?" "Was a nurse, emergency room mostly. That life wasn't for me anymore." Mae understood unspoken stories. She nodded and began arranging candles, creating islands of warm light. The bikers had settled respectfully, Reaper at the counter, others at tables. The young one hunched in a corner booth, trying to make himself small. "I don't have much, but I can't send people back into that storm hungry." Thunder cracked loud enough to rattle windows. Talia jumped. "Baby, can you grab the cornbread mix from the pantry and check what we have for soup?" Talia returned moments later, expression apologetic. "We have chicken, some vegetables, rice, 2 cans of tomatoes, cornbread mix, and 1 jar of your peach preserves." Not much. Barely enough for her and Talia for days. Certainly not enough for 11 people. But Mae had stretched less into more before. "That'll work," Mae said firmly. "Chicken soup, cornbread, and cobbler. Nothing fancy, but it'll stick to your ribs."
"Ma'am?" Reaper's voice stopped her. "We should pay, whatever supplies you use." "You can pay for the meal," Mae interrupted. "But this isn't about money. This is about hospitality. My husband and I believed everyone deserves a warm meal and a kind word. Storm doesn't change that." She pushed through the kitchen door. Behind her, she heard Mercy say softly, "She reminds me of someone," and Reaper's even softer reply, "Yeah, me too." Mae lit the camping stove and set to work, deboning chicken, dicing vegetables, measuring cornmeal. Through the pass-through window, she watched her guests relax incrementally. A stocky man with graying temples appeared. "Name's Jimmy Patterson, but everyone calls me Wrench. Heard your freezer running rough. Mind if I take a look?" Mae gestured with her knife. "Been acting up for months. Can't afford to fix it proper." Wrench knelt by the unit, tools appearing from somewhere. Within minutes, he was elbow-deep in machinery, humming tunelessly. "How long you had this place?" he asked. 35 years. My husband Jerome and I built it together." Mae stirred the pot. "We wanted to create something that would last." "World needs more places like this, more people like you." Another biker appeared, older, maybe 60, white beard and tree trunk arms. "I'm Red. Smells good. Anything I can help with?" Soon the kitchen was full of movement. Red hauled supplies. A younger biker named Diesel helped Talia with prep work, talking shyly about his grandmother who'd taught him to cook. The walls between them dissolved. When the food was ready, they gathered around pushed-together tables, candlelight flickering. Mae said grace, and 9 bikers bowed their heads. When she said amen, it echoed around the table. They ate, and stories emerged. Mercy talked about her brother, how the club had helped him escape abuse. Doc mentioned being a teacher before burnout. Diesel spoke haltingly about losing his mother to cancer. Reaper listened more than he spoke, but Mae caught him watching her intently. Finally, as they cleaned up, he approached her at the sink. "My grandmother had a restaurant," he said quietly. "Little place in South Boston. She lost it. Developers came in, pushed her out. Legal, but not right. She died 6 months later in a nursing home, broken-hearted." Mae's hands stilled in the dishwater. "I was deployed, Middle East. Couldn't help her." Reaper touched his scar. "Taliban rocket. Got home too late for the funeral." "I'm sorry," Mae whispered. "You remind me of her, the good I couldn't protect." Mae noticed Red near her office, expression troubled. He held up a paper, the foreclosure notice. How bad is it? Red asked simply. Mae considered lying, but something about the night made honesty easier. 30 days, 50,000. A developer named Marcus Hewitt bought the building through a shell company, jacked up my rent, filed false violations. I can't fight him. Red looked at the paper, then walked to Reaper. Mae watched them whisper, saw Reaper's face change from curious to angry to grimly determined. Reaper crossed to Mae. You showed us hospitality. We don't forget that, ever. Outside, the storm raged. Inside Mae's kitchen, surrounded by strangers becoming something else, Mae felt something she hadn't felt in months. Hope. The storm raged past midnight. One by one, bikers settled into makeshift beds, booths, pushed together chairs. Talia finally succumbed to exhaustion, curled under Mercy's leather jacket. Mae should have been exhausted too, but sleep felt impossible. She sat at the counter, lukewarm coffee between her hands, watching candlelight paint shadows. Can't sleep either? Reaper approached, moving quietly for such a large man. He gestured at the stool beside her. May I? And Mae nodded. They sat in comfortable silence. Finally, Reaper spoke. Tell me about Hewitt. Everything. Mae took a sip of cold coffee. Started 8 months ago. Building got sold to Pinnacle Properties LLC. Then rent went from $1,200 to $3,000 a month. Reaper's jaw tightened. I complained, tried to negotiate, but they had lawyers, contracts, loopholes, everything technically legal. Then health inspections started. Violations I'd never had in 35 years. Grease traps suddenly not up to code. Electrical issues 3 electricians said didn't exist. Fire suppression upgrades, $20,000. All manufactured, Reaper said. Every bit. But proving it takes money for lawyers I don't have. Each violation came with fines. Each reinspection cost money. They offered to buy me out, $15,000 for a business worth 10 times that. Mae's hands trembled around the cup. Jerome had hospital bills before he died. Medicare didn't cover everything, and Talia's mama can't take care of her, working 2 jobs. I'm all Talia's got. What's Hewitt's endgame? Push out old businesses, put in upscale chains. This corner lot, perfect for a Starbucks. Highways getting rerouted back through next year. Property values about to skyrocket. Reaper was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was rough with emotion. I told you about my grandmother. What I didn't say was how. Developers targeted her neighborhood, working-class Portuguese families. They used the same tactics, bought buildings through shell companies, manufactured violations, made life impossible. He turned to look at Mae directly. My grandmother held out longest. She thought the law would protect her, but developers had lawyers, politicians in their pocket, inspectors who owed favors. Her neighbors sold one by one, then foot traffic disappeared. They drove her out at 73.
Preparing and narrating the story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now, back to the story. Reaper's hands clenched. I was in Afghanistan. Got the news in a field hospital after I got blown up. By the time I made it stateside, she was in a nursing home. She died 6 months later. Heart attack, officially. But they broke her heart. I'm sorry, Mae whispered. I swore I'd never let it happen again. He looked at her intensely. You remind me of her, Mae. And Hewitt's using the same playbook. From across the diner, Wrench sat up. I heard everything. Mercy appeared from the shadows. Me too. I left nursing because I got tired of watching the system chew people up. Poor families who couldn't afford care, black and brown patients who got dismissed. I saw good people suffer because they didn't have money or power or the right skin color. She sat beside Mae. The club gave me purpose. Family that has each other's backs. You fed us tonight, opened your door when everyone else locked theirs. That makes you family. I can't ask you to fight my battles. You're not asking, Reaper said firmly. We're offering. Accepting help isn't weakness, it's wisdom. I don't even know what you could do. We have numbers, brotherhood across 3 states, and people who know how to make noise, Wrench called from his booth. Plus, I'm handy with building codes. Bet I could prove those violations were manufactured. Do you want to fight, Mae? Reaper asked, his voice dropping. Really fight? Because once we get involved, Hewitt will know he's in a war. Mae thought about Jerome, their dreams built in this place, about Talia, the example she was setting, about other business owners facing the same destruction. Most of all, she thought about Jerome's words. We don't inherit the world from our parents. We borrow it from our children. What we do with it matters. I want to fight, Mae said steadily. Not just for me. For everyone Hewitt's targeting. For every small business owner who can't afford lawyers. For every community getting gentrified. She met Reaper's eyes. But nothing illegal. I won't stoop to his level. Wouldn't dream of it, Reaper said with a slight smile. What I'm proposing is perfectly legal, just very, very visible. What do you mean? Reaper stood. Give me tomorrow to make calls. Church meeting, when the whole brotherhood gathers. I need to talk to other chapter presidents, call in favors, coordinate logistics. He looked down at Mae with affection. You gave us shelter from the storm. Now let us return the favor. The storm outside began to diminish. Wind dying down, thunder moving off. Dawn was still hours away, but Mae could feel the night turning toward morning. Get some rest, Mercy said gently, touching Mae's shoulder. Tomorrow's going to be interesting. Mae watched them return to their makeshift beds. She sat at her counter, surrounded by strangers who'd become allies through simple human kindness. Outside, the storm was passing. Inside Mae's kitchen, something new was being born. Not just hope, but the concrete possibility of justice. For the first time in 8 months, Mae felt like she wasn't facing Marcus Hewitt alone. And that made all the difference. Morning sun revealed storm damage throughout town, but also 9 motorcycles still parked at Mae's kitchen. The diner's overnight transformation into a shelter had become the talk of the town. Grandma, look at this! Talia held up her phone, eyes wide. My posts went viral. Thousands of shares. Mae peered at the screen, seeing photos Talia had taken. The bikers helping in the kitchen, everyone sharing the meal, Reaper and Mae talking by candlelight. The comments were mixed. Some praised Mae's kindness, others called her foolish, even dangerous. People are talking about this everywhere, Talia said, scrolling through notifications. It's kind of amazing. A knock at the door interrupted them. Sheriff Tom Bradley stood outside, 2 deputies flanking him. Mae's stomach tightened as she let them in. Morning, Mae, Sheriff Bradley said, his voice carefully neutral. Got some calls last night about, unusual activity here. Wanted to check everything's all right. Everything's fine, Sheriff, Mae said firmly. Some travelers needed shelter from the storm. I provided it. Reaper appeared from the kitchen, coffee cup in hand. He moved slowly, deliberately non-threatening, but his presence filled the space. Morning, Sheriff. Is there a problem? Bradley's hand moved instinctively toward his belt, then stopped. Just doing a welfare check, making sure Miss Johnson here wasn't, coerced into anything. She opened her door to strangers in a storm. That's called hospitality, where I come from. We're grateful, and we paid for our meals. Everything legal and above and board. Unless there's a law against helping old ladies with broken freezers. The sheriff's jaw tightened. But before he could respond, another figure appeared at the door. Pastor Elijah Moore from the Baptist church down the street peered in cautiously. "Mae, everything all right here?" "Come in, Pastor," Mae said, relieved. "Just serving breakfast." Pastor Moore entered, taking in the scene. The bikers, the sheriff, the tension. His eyes lingered on Reaper, then returned to Mae. "I heard about last night. Wanted to make sure you were okay."
"I'm better than okay," Mae said. She introduced Reaper and the others, watching the pastor's expression shift from wariness to curiosity as Mercy and Wrench greeted him respectfully. "You know what, Sheriff?" Pastor Moore said after a moment. "I think Mae's doing just fine, showing Christian charity in a storm. Nothing wrong with that." Bradley looked between them, clearly frustrated. "Well, if you're sure." A luxury sedan pulled into the parking lot, interrupting him. Through the window, Mae watched Marcus Hewitt emerge, phone pressed to his ear. He glanced at the motorcycles and his expression darkened. He made eye contact with Mae through the window, a look that was pure threat, then climbed back in his car and drove away slowly. "That's Marcus Hewitt," Mae said quietly. Reaper watched the car disappear. "The developer?" Mae nodded. "Then he knows now," Reaper said, something dangerous in his tone. "He knows you're not alone anymore." As more customers began arriving, some curious, some supportive, some clearly disapproving, Wrench moved to Mae's side. "Can I see those violation notices?" he asked quietly. "I want to photograph the paperwork before we leave." Mae retrieved the folder from her office. Wrench spread the documents across a table, photographing each page methodically while Doc looked over his shoulder, making notes. "These codes they're citing, half of them don't apply to buildings this age, and the ones that do, your equipment already meets the standards. This is fabricated top to bottom." "Can you prove it?" Mae asked. "Give me a day or two. I've got friends who are actual building inspectors. We'll document everything properly." As the bikers prepared to leave, Reaper pulled Mae aside. "Keep your phone on. Help is coming. Tomorrow morning, be ready." "Ready for what?" He smiled, that same mysterious smile from the night before. "You'll see. Trust us." Mae watched them ride away, engines rumbling. Talia came to stand beside her, phone still in hand. "This is really happening, isn't it?" Talia said. "We're actually fighting back." Mae put her arm around her granddaughter. "Yes, baby, we really are." That evening, 3 states away, a woman named Angela Hewitt sat in her apartment, scrolling through social media. When she saw Talia's viral posts about Mae's kitchen, she stopped cold. She recognized the location immediately, one of her father's target properties. She'd spent years trying to distance herself from Marcus Hewitt's business practices. She'd changed her name professionally, moved away, become an investigative journalist focused on exposing exactly the kind of predatory development her father specialized in. But she'd never directly confronted him, never gone after his properties, never made it personal. Until now. Angela picked up her phone and made a call. "Hey, it's me. I need to take some personal time. There's a story I need to chase down." She paused. "Yeah, in my hometown. It's complicated." She looked at the photos of Mae, dignified, graceful, defiant in her kindness. She looked at the bikers, the unlikely alliance forming. She thought about all the other business owners her father had destroyed. "I'm going home, and this time, I'm not looking away." Reaper's phone hadn't stopped ringing since he left Mae's kitchen. He stood in the clubhouse of the Hells Angels local chapter, maps spread across the table, a notepad filling with names and numbers. "Yeah, I know it's short notice, but this is important. A righteous woman showed us hospitality. Now she's being crushed by a suit who thinks money makes him untouchable." He listened. 3 states. "I need everyone who can ride. Tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Another pause. "Brother, I wouldn't ask if it wasn't worth it." He hung up and looked at the other chapter presidents assembled around the table. Tank, a massive enforcer from the Connecticut chapter.
Maria Snake Rodriguez from Rhode Island, Old Joe from Vermont, gray-bearded and wise. "We've got about 200 confirmed," Tank said, checking his own phone. "Maybe more by tomorrow." 200 bikers descending on a small town, Snake said thoughtfully. "That's going to make a statement." "That's the point," Reaper replied. "Hewitt operates in the shadows, uses legal intimidation against people who can't afford to fight back. We're going to make this so public, so visible, that he can't hide anymore." Meanwhile, back at Mae's kitchen, the diner was busier than it had been in months. Some customers were supportive, wanting to hear about the night before. Others came out of morbid curiosity. A few arrived with barely concealed hostility, muttering about those people and what Mae was bringing into their town. Mae handled them all with the same grace, serving food and deflecting questions she didn't want to answer. Then Marcus Hewitt walked in, accompanied by a man in a suit carrying a clipboard. "Mrs. Johnson, I thought we should have another inspection. Make sure everything is up to code. This is Mr. Peterson from the County Health Department." Mae's hands tightened on the coffee pot she was holding, but her voice stayed steady. "Of course, Mr. Hewitt, we have nothing to hide." The inspection was a farce from the beginning. Peterson moved through the kitchen looking for problems, his bias obvious. He examined the grease trap with exaggerated concern, tested the temperature of the refrigerator repeatedly, made notes on his clipboard with theatrical frowns.
Talia, remembering what Wrench had said about documentation, quietly began recording video on her phone, keeping it settled. "This fryer oil temperature is questionable," Peterson announced, "and I'm seeing potential cross-contamination issues with your food storage." "That fryer was just calibrated last month," Mallory said firmly, "and my food storage follows every guideline in the health code. I've been doing this for 35 years. "Perhaps that's the problem," Hewitt interjected smoothly. "Sometimes people get set in their ways, forget that codes change. Mr. Peterson, what's your assessment?" Peterson scribbled on his clipboard. "I'm going to have to issue several citations. These will need to be addressed immediately, or we'll have to consider suspension of your operating license." "On what grounds?" Talia demanded, stepping forward with her phone. "Because we've been recording this entire inspection, and everyone can see you're just looking for excuses." Peterson's face reddened. "You can't record an official inspection." "Actually, she can," Mallory said quietly. "This is my property, and I have every right to document what happens here." Hewitt's mask slipped slightly, showing the anger beneath his smooth exterior. "Mrs. Johnson, you're making this harder than it needs to be. My offer still stands. $15,000 for the property, and you walk away from all of this. No more inspections, no more violations, no more stress." "No more home, you mean," Mallory replied. "No more business that I built with my husband. No more community gathering place. Just another chain restaurant selling overpriced coffee." "Progress requires sacrifice," Hewitt said coldly. "You can accept that gracefully, or we can continue making things difficult. Your choice." After they left, Mallory slumped against the counter, suddenly looking all of her 68 years. Talia immediately posted the inspection video to social media with a detailed caption about harassment and fabricated violations. Within an hour, Wrench called. "Mae, I saw the video. Don't worry, I'm calling some official inspectors I know, ones who aren't on Hewitt's payroll. We'll get real documentation that your place is fine." Pastor Moore called next. "Mae, I'm talking to other business owners. Everyone Hewitt's targeted. We need to organize, present a united front. What happened to you today? It's happened to all of us." By evening, Talia's video had been shared thousands of times. Local news stations were calling. The story was growing beyond a simple dispute about one diner. And 300 miles away, Angela Hewitt packed a bag, loaded her laptop with years of research on her father's business practices, and started driving home. Mae stood at her diner window as darkness fell, watching headlights on the highway. Somewhere out there, Reaper was mobilizing hundreds of bikers. Somewhere, Angela was coming home to confront her father. Somewhere, the story was spreading, taking on a life of its own.
Mae thought about Jerome, about the life they'd built, about the choice she'd made to open her door to strangers in a storm. "Tomorrow," Reaper had said, "be ready." Mae didn't know what was coming, but for the first time in 8 months, she felt ready to face it. The morning started normally. Mae opened the diner at 6, Talia helped with prep work, and a few regular customers settled into their usual booths. The sky was clear, the storm from 2 nights ago just a memory. Then, around 10 a.m., Mae heard it, a distant rumble that grew and grew, building like thunder but mechanical, powerful, relentless. "Grandma," Talia said, moving to the window, "what is that?" The rumble became a roar. Then they appeared on the highway. Motorcycles, dozens of them, hundreds of them. Chrome glinting in the sunlight, engines creating a symphony of power that shook the windows. Mae's hand flew to her mouth. Customers stood from their booths, staring in disbelief. Across the street, people emerged from shops, pointing. The motorcycles filled Mae's parking lot and lined both sides of the highway. They kept coming, wave after wave of riders, leather-clad and intimidating, their engines gleaming in the sunlight. Mae counted 50, then 100, and lost count as they kept arriving. Reaper led them, his massive bike pulling up directly in front of the diner's entrance. He dismounted, removed his helmet, and looked at Mae through the window. His expression was fierce and proud. 200 bikers, maybe more, all here for her. The small town had never seen anything like it. Sheriff Bradley's cruiser pulled up, lights flashing, backup units behind him. Marcus Hewitt's sedan appeared from the opposite direction, the developer's face visible through the windshield, pale with shock. Pastor Moore hurried over from his church, eyes wide. News vans appeared, cameras emerging to capture the spectacle. Reaper walked to Mae's door and opened it. The diner fell silent. "Mae Johnson," he said formally, his voice carrying. "You fed 9 strangers in a storm. You showed us hospitality when everyone else locked their doors. In our world, that means something. That means everything."
The bikers began forming orderly lines to enter the diner, not rushing, not causing chaos, respectful, organized. Each one greeted Mae as they entered, many offering handshakes or kind words. "Order whatever you want," Reaper announced, "and tip generously. Mae's kitchen is under our protection now." The cash register began ringing, and ringing, and ringing. Orders for eggs, bacon, pancakes, coffee, burgers, everything on the menu. Bikers filled every seat, stood along the walls, spilled out into the parking lot. Mae and Talia moved in a daze, cooking and serving as fast as they could. Other bikers pitched in without being asked, bussing tables, refilling coffee, helping in the kitchen. The operation ran smoothly despite the chaos, a testament to the Brotherhood's organization. Sheriff Bradley stood in the doorway, clearly uncertain. He couldn't arrest 200 people for eating breakfast, couldn't disperse a peaceful gathering. He caught Mae's eye and she saw his internal struggle, duty to Hewitt versus what was clearly right. Pastor Moore entered, surveyed the scene, and then did something remarkable. He walked up to Reaper and extended his hand. "I'm Pastor Elijah Moore from the Baptist Church. I want to thank you for what you're doing here. This is what community looks like." Reaper shook his hand firmly. "Thank you, Pastor. We may not look like churchgoers, but we understand sanctuary." The news cameras captured everything: the orderly bikers, the overflowing diner, Mae's tears of gratitude, the reporter interviewing customers, getting reactions. Some townspeople looked frightened. Others seemed impressed. A few nodded in approval. Then Marcus Hewitt's car door opened. He stepped out, his lawyer beside him, and headed toward the diner. The crowd of bikers parted to let him through, but Reaper stepped forward, blocking the entrance. "I don't believe you have a reservation," Reaper said mildly. "This is a public establishment. I have every right." "Do you?" Reaper's voice dropped to something dangerous. "The way I understand it, you've been harassing the owner, Manufacturing violations, trying to steal her property. That doesn't sound like someone who deserves her hospitality. Hewitt's lawyer stepped forward, waving papers. This is illegal harassment. We'll have you arrested for what? Standing? Mercy appeared beside Reaper, arms crossed. We're just having breakfast. Best breakfast in the state, as a matter of fact. The bikers around them rumbled with laughter. Hewitt looked at the cameras, at Sheriff Bradley's uncertain expression, at the crowd of bikers standing between him and Mae. For the first time since his campaign against her began, Marcus Hewitt didn't have the upper hand. "This isn't over," he snarled, turning back to his car. "Oh, we know. That's why we're staying." As Hewitt's car peeled out of the parking lot, the bikers erupted in cheers. Mae stood in her diner doorway, surrounded by protection she never could have imagined, watching the man who terrorized her flee from the force of collective action. The cash register kept ringing. The cameras kept rolling. And Mae Johnson, 68-year-old grandmother, realized she'd just become a symbol of resistance against a system designed to crush people like her. All because she'd opened her door to strangers in a storm. 2 hours after his humiliating retreat, Marcus Hewitt returned. This time, he brought his lawyer and a television crew he'd clearly paid for his own narrative. He pushed through the diner's entrance, projecting false confidence. "Mrs. Johnson, I'm here to serve you with final foreclosure papers," and Reaper stepped between them before Hewitt could reach Mae. He didn't touch the developer, didn't threaten him. He simply stood there, 6'3" of controlled power, and the space around him became an immovable wall. "You'll need to go through me first," Reaper said quietly. Hewitt's lawyer stepped forward, waving papers. "This is illegal harassment. We'll have you arrested for what? Standing?" Mercy appeared beside Reaper, arms crossed. "We're just having breakfast. Best breakfast in the state, as a matter of fact." The bikers around them rumbled with laughter. "Mr. Hewitt?" Wrench called from a booth, holding up his phone. "Before you serve anything, you might want to see this. I had 3 certified building inspectors review Mae's property yesterday. All 3 confirmed her equipment exceeds current code standards. Every violation you filed, fabricated. I've got sworn affidavits." Hewitt's Scafonson facade cracked slightly. "That's absurd. Those inspections were conducted by county officials, who happen to have received significant donations from your company. Funny how that works." The diner door opened again, and a woman in her 30s entered. She had Hewitt's sharp features, but carried herself with purpose rather than entitlement. She wore jeans, a blazer, and a press badge that read Regional Investigative Reporter. "Hello, Dad." The room went silent. Marcus Hewitt turned pale. "Angela? What are you doing here?"
My job. Angela Hewitt moved to the center of the diner, addressing everyone present. "My name is Angela Hewitt. Yes, I'm his daughter. I'm also an investigative journalist, and for the past 3 years, I've been documenting predatory development practices across this region." She pulled out a tablet, swiping through documents. "I have evidence that my father's company, operating through multiple shell corporations, including Pinnacle Properties, has systematically targeted minority-owned businesses in 12 towns. The pattern is always the same. Buy the property through an LLC, raise rents exponentially, file manufactured code violations, force foreclosure, then flip the property for massive profit." "You have no right," Hewitt sputtered. "I have every right." Angela cut him off, her voice shaking with emotion. "I've been ashamed of what you do for years. I changed my name professionally because I didn't want to be associated with your business practices. But when I saw what was happening here, when I saw Mae Johnson's story go viral, I realized I couldn't stay silent anymore." She turned to the legitimate news cameras that had gathered. "I'm publishing a full investigative report tomorrow morning. It includes financial records showing my father's shell companies, testimony from dozens of displaced business owners, and documentation of falsified inspection reports. Mae Johnson isn't alone. She's one of over 40 victims." Marcus Hewitt's face had gone from pale to red. "You ungrateful! This is defamation! I'll sue you for everything." "Try it," Angela said coldly. "I've been working with the State Attorney General's office for 6 months. They've already opened an investigation into your business practices. This story just made it urgent." Sheriff Bradley, who'd been standing near the door, stepped forward. His expression had changed from conflicted to resolved. "Mr. Hewitt, I'm going to need you to come with me. We need to discuss these allegations formally." "This is absurd," Hewitt shouted. "Tom, you can't seriously—" "I can and I am," Bradley interrupted. His voice was tired but firm. "I've been looking the other way too long. Not anymore." As the sheriff escorted a protesting Hewitt out, his lawyer trailing behind making frantic phone calls, the diner erupted in applause. Mae stood behind her counter, tears streaming down her face as Angela approached her. "Mrs. Johnson, I'm so sorry for what my father put you through. I should have exposed him years ago." Mae took her hand, then pulled the younger woman into a hug. "You're here now. That's what matters." Through the window, they watched Hewitt's car disappear down the highway, Sheriff Bradley's cruiser following. The news cameras captured everything: the confrontation, the evidence, the daughter's betrayal for the sake of justice, the community's triumph. Reaper appeared at Mae's side. "It's not over yet. Hewitt has resources, lawyers. He'll fight back." "But now everyone's watching," Pastor Moore said, having witnessed everything. "He can't operate in the shadows anymore." Talia was already posting updates to social media, the footage spreading in real time. Within minutes, the story was trending nationally. Bikers defend grandmother's diner from predatory developer, and developer's daughter exposes father's discriminatory practices. Mae's Kitchen had become ground zero for something bigger than one woman's fight for her diner. It had become a symbol of resistance against systemic injustice, proof that solidarity could challenge power. And the day was just beginning. By evening, Mae's Kitchen was the top trending story across multiple platforms. The footage of 200 bikers defending an elderly black grandmother, combined with Angela Hewitt's explosive revelations about her father's predatory practices, had captured the nation's attention. Talia sat at a booth, her laptop open, monitoring the spread. "Grandma, look at this. We're on CNN and NBC. And, oh my God, someone started a GoFundMe for the diner. It's already at $50,000. "It's more than that now." She refreshed the page. 60,000, 70. People are donating from all over the country. Angela's investigative article had published online within hours of the confrontation, complete with financial documents, testimony from dozens of displaced business owners, and documentation of falsified inspection reports. Major news outlets picked it up immediately. The phones in Mae's Kitchen wouldn't stop ringing. News stations requesting interviews, supporters offering help, other business owners calling to share their own experiences with Hewitt's tactics. Pastor Moore had set up a command center in a corner booth, coordinating with community organizers and civil rights groups.
"Mae, the state attorney general wants to talk to you," Pastor Moore called out. "They're fast-tracking the investigation. They want your testimony." But the attention brought darker responses too. Mae's email filled with threatening messages. Anonymous calls warned her to back down or face consequences. Someone spray-painted slurs on the diner's exterior wall overnight. The bikers responded by establishing a formal security rotation. Day and night, at least 10 club members were present, making their protection visible and undeniable. "We're not leaving until this is resolved," Reaper told Mae firmly when she protested. "You've got enemies now, real ones. We protect our own." On the third day after the viral moment, a rally organized by Pastor Moore drew over 500 people. Supporters came from neighboring towns. Civil rights organizations sent representatives, and other victims of Hewitt's practices stood together publicly for the first time. Mae found herself giving an impromptu speech from her diner's steps, cameras rolling. "I'm not special," she said, her voice trembling but strong. "I'm just a grandmother who wanted to keep serving good food to good people. But what happened to me is happening everywhere. Developers pushing out communities, destroying businesses that have been around for generations, all in the name of progress and profit." She gestured to the crowd. "If my story means anything, I hope it's this. We're not powerless. When we stand together, when we refuse to be intimidated, when we demand justice instead of accepting injustice, we can win." The crowd erupted in applause. Reaper stood nearby, arms crossed, scanning for threats, but unable to hide his pride. That evening, Marcus Hewitt held his own press conference, attempting damage control. He denied everything, claimed the violations were legitimate, insisted his business practices were legal, accused Angela of betraying him out of spite. But the evidence was overwhelming. Other developers came forward, afraid to be next, sharing information about Hewitt's methods. Former employees anonymously leaked internal documents showing deliberate targeting of minority businesses. The Attorney General's office announced formal charges were being filed. Mae watched Hewitt's press conference from her diner, surrounded by supporters. She saw a man desperately clinging to power, his smooth facade finally crumbling. "He looks scared," Talia observed. "He should be," Mercy said. "The whole system that protected him is watching now. He can't hide anymore." The GoFundMe reached $200,000. Other crowdfunding campaigns sprang up for the 40-plus business owners Angela had identified as Hewitt's victims. A legal defense fund was established. Pro bono lawyers volunteered their services. But success brought unexpected complications. That night, Mae suffered severe chest pains. Mercy, with her nursing background, immediately recognized the signs and called an ambulance. At the hospital, doctors confirmed what Mae had feared: stress-induced cardiac event. Not a full heart attack, but a serious warning. "You need to rest," the doctor insisted. "Complete rest. No work, no stress. Another incident like this could be fatal." Mae's 3 adult children arrived from the city, their faces etched with worry and guilt. They'd known their mother was struggling, but hadn't understood the severity until the story went viral. "Mama, you have to stop this," her oldest son, Marcus Jr., pleaded. "Take the money from the fundraiser and sell. Your health is more important than the diner." "He's right," her daughter Sharon added. "You've made your point. You've won. Now let it go before it kills you." Mae lay in the hospital bed, monitors beeping steadily, and faced the hardest question yet. What was she really fighting for? Personal security or collective justice? Her health and family's peace of mind, or a principle that might cost her everything? Outside her room, Reaper sat in the waiting area, head in his hands. He'd promised to protect Mae, to help her fight. But if that fight killed her, what kind of victory would that be? Talia sat beside him, tears streaming down her face. "Is this my fault? I posted everything online. I made it blow up." "No," Reaper said firmly. "You gave your grandmother a voice. You made people pay attention. That's not wrong." "But if she dies?" "She won't," Reaper interrupted, though his voice held doubt. "She's strong, stronger than any of us." Inside the room, Mae stared at the ceiling, thinking about Jerome, about the life they'd built, about the choice she'd made to open her door to strangers, and about what kind of legacy she wanted to leave when she was gone. 2 weeks after her hospitalization, Mae sat in her diner's office, surrounded by choices that felt impossible. On her desk, a contract from a national restaurant chain offering $500,000 for Mae's kitchen, the property, the brand, everything. Life-changing money. Her children's college debts paid off. Talia's education secured. Comfortable retirement. Next to it, a personal letter from Marcus Hewitt's lawyers. If Mae dropped all complaints and refused to cooperate with investigators, Hewitt would deed the property to her outright and pay an additional $100,000 in settlement. Everything she'd fought for, handed to her, but only if she walked away from justice.
And finally, a letter from the Attorney General's office. With Mae's testimony, they could build a case that would likely send Hewitt to prison and establish precedent protecting other small businesses. But it meant months of legal proceedings, depositions, stress that her doctors warned could trigger another cardiac event. "What are you going to do?" Reaper asked. He'd barely left the diner since Mae returned from the hospital, sleeping in the back office, helping Talia run operations. "I don't know," Mae admitted. "For the first time in my life, I genuinely don't know what's right." Her children had been clear. Take the money, protect your health. Even Pastor Moore had gently suggested that Mae had already done enough, that surviving to fight another day was its own kind of victory. But Talia had different thoughts. "Grandma," she'd said the night before, "I know everyone wants you to be safe. I want that too. But I also know what you taught me, that some things are worth fighting for. And if you walk away now, Hewitt just finds another Mae,
Another diner, another community to destroy. Angela Hewitt visited that afternoon, her expression haunted. "I've been getting death threats," she said quietly. "My father's supporters, people who profit from his business model. They're trying to destroy my career, my credibility." She looked at Mae directly. "I'm not telling you this to pressure you. I'm telling you because I need you to know, if you decide to walk away, I'll understand. This fight has already cost you so much." "Has it cost too much?" Mae asked. Angela considered the question. "My father destroyed 43 businesses that we know of, displaced hundreds of families, extracted millions in profit from communities that couldn't fight back. If we stop now, he gets away with it. Maybe not completely, but enough." She paused. "Only you can decide if preventing that is worth your health, your peace." That evening, Reaper revealed his own dilemma. "I've been offered a business opportunity here," he told Mae. "Someone's selling a garage property next to your diner. I could open a motorcycle repair shop, stay in town permanently." "Why haven't you?" Mae asked. "Because I came here to redeem myself," Reaper said. "To save you the way I couldn't save my grandmother. But if I pressure you to keep fighting and it kills you—" His voice broke. "That's not redemption. That's just repeating my mistake." Mae looked around her office, at the photographs spanning 35 years. Jerome smiling on opening day, her children as babies, sitting in high chairs while she worked, community members celebrating birthdays, anniversaries, life's milestones at her tables. Talia's school pictures chronicling her growth from infant to teenager. This place was more than a business. It was a living history. But was it worth dying for? She thought about what justice really meant: personal victory or systemic change, individual survival or collective protection, the immediate or the lasting. "I need to show you all something," Mae said, standing slowly. She led Reaper, Talia, and Angela to the dining room wall, where a photograph hung. Mae and Jerome with a group of black business owners from 1989, all smiling in front of their establishments. "These were our neighbors," Mae said. "All of them gone now. Not because their businesses failed, but because developers like Hewitt pushed them out, one by one, over decades. Jerome and I watched it happen, helpless to stop it." She touched the photograph gently. "When Jerome was dying, he made me promise something. He said, 'Mae, when they come for our place, and they will come, don't go quietly. Make some noise. Let them know we were here. We mattered. We built something worth protecting.'" Tears streamed down her face. "I thought keeping the diner open was enough, but it's not. It was never just about me." She turned to face them. "Here's what I've decided. I'm testifying against Hewitt. I'm cooperating with the investigation fully, but I'm also accepting the money people donated, not to retire, but to hire lawyers for all 43 businesses Angela identified. We're filing a class action lawsuit." "Mae, your health," Reaper started. "I know the risks," Mae interrupted. "But here's the thing about being 68 years old with a heart condition. I'm going to die someday regardless. The question is what I do with whatever time I have left, and I'd rather spend it fighting for something that matters than hiding, safe but ashamed." She looked at Talia. "Baby, I need you to promise me something. If something happens to me during this fight, you'll finish it. You'll tell our story. You'll make sure it meant something." Talia threw her arms around her grandmother, sobbing. "I promise, but you're going to be fine. You have to be." "We'll make sure of it," Mercy said from the doorway, having overheard everything. "You're not fighting alone, Mae. We're here, all of us." That night, Mae sat in her empty diner, the closed sign on the door for the first time in weeks. The bikers had finally gone to their hotels to rest. Talia was asleep upstairs. The world was quiet. Mae pulled out her laptop. Talia had taught her to use it, and began typing. A statement. A manifesto, a declaration of intention. My name is Mae Johnson. I'm 68 years old. I own a diner, and I'm not backing down.
She detailed everything: Hewitt's tactics, her decision to fight, what she hoped to accomplish. She explained that this wasn't about revenge, but about protection. Not just for her, but for every small business owner who couldn't afford to fight alone. When she finished, she sent it to Angela to publish. Then she called the Attorney General's office and scheduled her testimony. Finally, she looked up at Jerome's photograph and whispered, "I'm making noise, baby. I'm making all the noise I can." Outside, the first motorcycle pulled back into the parking lot. Then another, and another. The Brotherhood had returned, taking up their protective positions without being asked. Mae smiled. She'd made her choice. Now it was time to see it through, whatever the cost. 3 months later, Mae's Kitchen reopened with a celebration that drew the entire town. The diner had been fully renovated using the donated funds, new equipment, fresh paint, updated infrastructure. But it remained recognizably itself. The same counter where Jerome had served coffee, the same photographs on the walls, the same warmth that had always defined the place. Marcus Hewitt had been convicted on multiple fraud charges. His assets were being liquidated to compensate victims. More importantly, Mae's case had catalyzed the Small Business Protection Act in the state legislature, creating new safeguards against predatory development practices. The grand reopening was packed. Pastor Moore blessed the renovated space. Angela Hewitt, now an award-winning journalist, gave a speech about the power of standing up to injustice. Former victims of Hewitt's schemes gathered to share their stories and healing. And beside Mae's Kitchen, in the property he'd purchased 3 months earlier, Reaper cut the ribbon on Cole's motorcycle repair. His shop and Mae's Diner shared a common wall, and they'd installed a connecting door. 2 businesses, 2 communities, supporting each other. "Never thought I'd end up running a garage in a small town," Reaper said, grinning at Mae during the celebration. "Never thought I'd be best friends with a biker gang," Mae replied, laughing. Talia had been accepted to journalism school with a full scholarship, following in Angela's footsteps. But she'd deferred for a year to help Mae and document the ongoing impact of their fight. As the celebration continued, Mae served breakfast to Reaper and several bikers who'd become regulars. The interaction was familiar now, familial. What had begun with strangers seeking shelter in a storm had evolved into something permanent and precious. Mae looked out her diner window at the highway. She saw not isolation, but connection. Not vulnerability, but community. Not an ending, but a continuation. An open road ahead, faced not alone, but surrounded by chosen family. Jerome's photograph smiled down from the wall. Mae touched it gently. "We made some noise, baby. We made all the noise we could." Outside, motorcycles lined the parking lot. Inside, Mae's Kitchen was full of life and laughter. The fight had cost much, but it had also revealed something profound: that dignity, compassion, and human connection could transcend every barrier. That simple acts of kindness could change everything. And that home was not just a place, it was the people who chose to stand with you when the storm came. Mae Johnson was 68 years old. She owned a diner, and she had won. Not because she had saved her business, though she had, but because she had proven that justice, solidarity, and love were stronger than greed, prejudice, and power. And that was a victory worth every struggle.